Tuesdays Live with Larry Nemecek. That's me, Dr. Trek, coming at you as we do every week from the home of clarity, sanity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek, right here in Trekland, right through Portal 47. Do Star Trek movies really depend on other tentpoles? Yeah, that's my topic today. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that here in just a second. Just a reminder to say hello to everybody. People are coming into the chat. Remember, we have live chat today, and I'll be talking to everybody in part 2. So hang on. Feel free to populate. Feel free to say howdy to everybody if you're part of the community. If you're new to Trekland Tuesdays Live, hang on. I'm going to talk on my topic, and then we'll take a break. After the break, we'll come back with the PArrot Analytics streaming TV ratings for the U.S. top 10. Big news this week still. Yay. And then we'll get to some chat. Also some news, some other events going on in Trekland, and a couple of shout outs along the way. Okay, everybody? And hey, if you're watching us on YouTube, please go up and hit that like and subscribe and all that stuff. And if you're not, if you're on Facebook with me now, but you have a YouTube channel, I'd sure appreciate it if you'd go over and subscribe there too. And of course, I got to give a shout out first off to all of our TTL club, okay? All the TTLers. Hey, Blaze K, Lawrence Codd, Blake Arledge, and our live wires, Rusty Harold, Gerald Cooper, Mr. Vestek, Halbjörn Good Johnson, Jalen Bullock, Gary Wilson, Robert McLean, and Eli Irvin. Thank you guys very much. They're all on Patreon. If you want to check into it, I have a very simple Patreon, patreon.com/TreklandLive. If you don't know about Patreon, go check it out. It's a great way to support other creatives. But hey, do Star Trek movies really have to depend on other tentpoles? I say this because there was an article. Now, it's been since July. This is one of those things I filed away to talk about sometime, and somehow the topics have just been flowing along week to week here with the outside Trek world happening, and I never got back to it. I stuck a list of these behind back summer, and I realized this really kind of got my goat a little bit. Now, this is not, I'm replying to an article. I'm replying to an online piece written by Scott Mendelson, who's the film and Hollywood entertainment reporter here, not for some little clickbaity toxic tuber. No, he writes for Forbes. Okay. So we're all very mainstream here. And that's part of the attraction and the appeal of it. And I very much respect the detail and the industry savvy that he's bringing to this piece. But yes, it was even the headline that caught my attention. How Star Trek became obsolete thanks to Guardians, Fast and Furious, and Star Wars. I mean, anybody watching this right now, wouldn't that get your goat? At least get your attention. So I thought I should read it. Basically, the premise here is that the Star Trek current film movies, and again, this was written July 1st. This is not something from 2018. This is something from last summer. In the middle of COVID, we're all, we all are very much aware of what the TV side of Trek is happening. Also, all the difficulties that is happening on the movie side, all the plots that are out there, all the scripts, all the versions, and also the morass that Paramount had been in until the reconciliation of the Viacom divorce. And now we have Viacom CBS, and there's new turf afoot to figure out what to do with the movies. We know all that. This was a very recent piece, but it's tracing recent history. Now, I don't talk a lot about Star Trek movies here. I don't talk about the recent ones because they're the recent ones, and they don't seem to have a lot of connection to anything except into their own world. I haven't talked a lot about the older movies because, by definition, Star Trek movies until 2009 had always been, the icing on the cake for a cast that did well and had lucky timing in history. Had the DS9 cast not been an overlapping series, hell, maybe even Voyager, had they not been an overlapping series that sapped some of their TV viewers, they might have been standalone enough. But, the original series, icons, obviously. The Next Generation, 20 years later, icons, obviously, that restarted a franchise. Their movies, yes, I know a movie should be a movie, but I've always said you can't compare in the big picture, you can't compare the Star Trek movies to Star Wars or James Bond or Fast and Furious or Harry Potter. Harry Potter was books, but bringing something from a book to screen is not the same thing as bringing it from small screen to big screen, which Star Trek, pioneered. And no, I'm not talking about the glorified TV movies that Batman did or that the Munsters did, or that let's take the first 3 Petticoat Junction episodes and clump them into a movie and throw that into theaters. I'm talking about built for the big screen cinema, okay? Star Trek movies have always been a thing apart, and yet you can't. Yes, you don't need to know a show. That's the bane of them. You can't just make a movie for Star Trek fans that would never pay for itself. You'd never survive on the box office, or else your movie would be so cheap down that fans would be insulted. It's always walking that tightrope of how do we not insult our fan base, but how do we spell it out? How do we attract all the newbies that are out there? Because I know it's a shock, guys, but we are not the whole world. Witness the last 20 years. Witness the rise of Comic-Con, San Diego, that is, and the whole movement, the rise of Comic-Con without Star Trek for the first, 15 years of it, till the 50th anniversary. Finally got a seat back at the table. And now there's product, as they love to say, like it's dog food. There's product out there, and we're clawing our way back to the thing that we invented in the first place. So that's why this article, How Star Trek Became Obsolete Thanks to Guardians, Fast and Furious, mainly talking about the window between 2009, which did have a huge box office comparatively and made everybody thrilled for the future, and then what happened with STID, Star Trek Into Darkness. Not talking about the movie and its production and its concept and its content and casting and the promotion. Well, promotion. Not that per se, but just where it was in history. Because Scott Mendelson's point here is basically saying, remember how Star Trek became obsolete thanks to Guardians, Fast and Furious, and Star Wars. Basically saying that the timing of all these movies as they unfolded as big screen productions, right, originally, Star Wars coming back, Guardians of the Galaxy being a team effort, solving problems, being the heroes, maybe even being the unlikely heroes, which Star Trek, especially if it's Kirk, Spock, and McCoy in any friggin' universe. Even if you did a Kirk, Spock, and McCoy of the mirror universe, that would be Spock trying to bring down the Terran, whatever. Fast and Furious, part of its appeal, as he's saying here, is as it evolved and got out of just racing cars into almost superhuman plots by the time of 5th and 6th and 7th installments here. That diversity in the cast, a diverse family. Basically, that a diverse family in Fast and Furious and heroes taking on the underdog or standing up for the underdog kind of took the fire out of the appeal of Star Trek on the big screen. Okay. And that Guardians of the Galaxy was another ragtag group of people coming together of different diverse strains. I mean, really diverse, to take on, the world, to fight for right. Okay. And then finally, that when 09 premiered, and it was J.J. Abrams jumping in to bring this, it was not on the pile. The world at large, the suits and the bean counters, since 2005, thought that Star Trek was dead and would be 10 or 20 years before anybody would pay to see it again. Silly suits and bean counters. So he brought it off the pile, and to a doubting world, supposedly, aside from us, brought it back. You might have difficulties with the movie, but the idea that Star Trek itself was a dead idea, I think we could all hoot at in 2005. As I wrote way back then in Star Trek Magazine, it was going to depend on who was doing it, what their personal connection to Trek was, and what their ego situation was. Did they have to do it themselves? Were they big enough to bring in people who knew more than they did and have a team? That's all kind of what wound up happening. But it's still big screen. It's not small screen. And so we get what we get. His point here is that on top of those other franchises, the coming of Star Wars totally robbed J.J. Abrams' focus and attention from this thing that he had restarted with such aplomb. And by the time of Into Darkness, by the time of STID, as I love to say, that his attention focus was already being stolen away to Star Wars. The hoopla, the air had all gone out of the promotion machine for, I guess, people who only watch what's flying by on the summer marquees, I guess. That the excitement had all passed to Star Wars, and he had deflated the Star Trek balloon by going to Star Wars, which is hysterical because most of the Star Trek audience, whether they weren't keen on the Kelvin movies originally or whether they were, most people would say that his heart was with Star Wars. And that, thanks for writing the check, JJ. Thanks for putting it back on the back page. But if you want to personally run along and produce Star Wars, that's fine. I'm not getting into critical analysis here. I'm just saying Star Trek does not depend on J.J. Abrams. Many people would say that it would live long and prosper far without him. But either way, even if you enjoyed the first movies, the overall point here is, Scott Mendelson, the overall point here is Star Trek is Star Trek. It became a hit. It became a sleeper hit. It grew from a failed little 3-year show to become a cult classic, to become mainstream, to the part where South Park can have everybody running around in mirror Spock beards to show alternate universe, etc., etc., etc. You can play the Amok Time fight music on anything anymore, and people get it. That's iconic status. And now you've replicated it with Next Generation. You've had spin-offs, and now you're pioneering a streaming network. It's a huge property that was not handled or handled badly for years. It's still being worked out. It's getting better. In fact, it's getting really better. It's not rocket science, but it still is a big machine. It's a big thing to get your arms around. And the faster you can get professionals who happen to be fans into that mix, the better. And that's where we are. And that's why a magazine piece that says how Star Trek became obsolete thanks to Guardians, Fast and the Furious, and Star Wars. Now look, he's great. He goes through box office totals. He retraces the historical steps. Scott has not done a bad job here at all. I just think some of his premise, his point of view is all from the movie industry. His premise is all from strict box office totals and the calendars and all of that. I think he totally misreads, aside from the part that he dragged it back into the spotlight, totally misreads the contribution of J.J. Abrams. And yeah, I'm not trying to take away anything from 09 and all the people that enjoyed that. And if you didn't enjoy it, you at least appreciated that it brought Star Trek back out in the spotlight for all the stupid doubting Thomases that totally misread what happened with Nemesis and the 05 cancellation of Enterprise. It was producer fatigue, not audience fatigue. The fan films exploded to try to occupy some of the vacuum of the fallow years. And now CBS All Access and Alex and the team there, they're expanding. The much ballyhooed buffet of Trek is coming. And soon we'll get it. And no, it won't all be perfect, but the basic idea, Star Trek has got the biggest, most fleshed out universe and time frame now across 3 centuries to play with. It's got the biggest sandbox of anybody. Some of that surely can translate to the big screen. I've said before, you heard me say earlier, the big screen has usually been the gravy for a job well done on TV. That's true. That's great. And that's what will most noticeably bring people onto the big screen, in the audience for a cinema. I would personally love to see, and maybe it's totally counterintuitive because it's certainly counter to the way things used to be in the business models of the universe, but I would love to see movies become an anthology. Spend a huge amount of money, get a good script, but have an insanely good idea that drags in even the most mundane of brown shoes at their studio office. Gets the most, whether that's a new producer, whether eventually Alex becomes the Rick Berman, becomes the Harv Bennett of the movie franchise. They're not making huge noise about that. They're talking about just knitting the two together, which makes sense. We would be back to that Gene on the small screen, Harv on the big screen, and the 5 and 6 movies kind of dancing around each other. I've got a tape of Harv talking about that we recorded for the Con of Wrath, and I hope to get that out sometime. What that was like those days. We've got some photographic evidence. We've got some anecdotal evidence too. And I'm sure Mark and Ed have some in the 50-year mission, although I haven't read that specifically. But I'm saying it's a universe that has existed before and can again. We just need to let Paramount, the studio, get its bearings again after the remarriage. But for Star Trek to be obsolete on the big screen, I don't talk a lot about the big screen Treks because I get the heart is on small screen, but it's not an obsolete concept. It's not an obsolete concept for movies or video games or comic books or books. It's not an obsolete concept anywhere. Now, if you want to get into the weeds about financing and what to expect on projecting a budget and what kind of scale and all that, well, that gets easier every year. It all gets back to the concept, the writing, who's doing it. Are you rushing it? I'm looking at you, Beyond. Are you cranking it out way too fast? Are you under all kinds of financial pressures? I'm looking at you, unmade Star Trek 4, where no, Pine and Helmsworth did not jack up their asking price. They just wanted what they were promised in the beginning. And when Paramount was floundering around before the remerger, looking like the puniest studio in Hollywood, because it was, they walked because they could not be paid what their original contract agreed to prices were. And if you're in the market of selling yourself, you can't let it out that you decided to undersell yourself for anything short of your Uncle Harry's home movie. What a death knell on your own marketability. Well, if you cut it for that, you can cut it for us. Right. I don't blame them at all. It was just the time. I don't blame anybody. It was just the thing. But it's a whole different world now. It's a whole different world now. And they're figuring it out. They will get there. That's why it's like Star Trek is powerless. It's like this has taken all the power away from a franchise that started the whole friggin' Comic-Con movement. It will be back there. It's not obsolete. I mean, I would love, yes, Fast and Furious 6 opened just a week after Star Trek Into Darkness. I mean, we all go back and think about how Nemesis was crammed into, out of the ego of Paramount, I'm going to say, crammed into the holiday window with what, the James Bond movie of the moment, the Harry Potter movie of the moment, the Lord of the Rings, was it? It was just squeezed out. And people that went back on a second weekend to find it at their local, one screener, it was gone. Nemesis got a much, much bigger bum rap than it deserved. I'm sorry. And a rewatch does that too. But there's a universe for everything. TV shows, our series, and our films. There's what they left behind, what we're watching now as we binge watch, as we, Blu-ray them. And then there's also the universe, the original movie, and how that added to the perception at the time. And rewatches and all that now we've learned. Hopefully we've learned. So Scott acknowledges, says Star Trek is flourishing on streaming. Discovery and Picard are pulling in decent notices and decent ratings on All Access. He's talking about if there is no Star Trek 4, Beyond ends on a lovely farewell note, almost as verklempt making as Star Trek 6. I don't think so, but we'll let him say that. He's talking about his obsolete, I think in the end, he's talking about the Kelvin universe, not Star Trek as a whole. I'm not sure. If he's talking about the Kelvin universe as a whole, it's not clear. He kind of gets there. He says it was great. He notes that it was great to keep the IP alive long enough. Well, it kept it momentary. The IP is not going anywhere. You don't throw away billion-dollar franchises in Hollywood for forever, which is what we kept trying to say in 2005, how stupid the headlines were then. even points out the Orville here taking on the mantle on small screen. Anyway, and who knows if he wrote this headline for his own story. I'd like to know what you all think. We haven't talked a lot about the movies here. We barely talk about them in Portal 47 when I've got the Portales together. They don't come up often here. Of course, the movies have been off the radar except for the eternal will there, won't they, what's going on with the merger, all that. I don't know. Do you think about the movie end of things? A lot of that is defined by what is the movie? Is it just more of the same Kelvin cast? Would movies actually move back into prime with new actors playing new, different characters? Find a spot in the timeline. Find a spot in the galaxy. Find a premise. Why not take a 2-hour, 3-hour script that might have been a mini series for small screen and blow it up? It's epic worthy. That's worth spending the money on. Hell, there's so much small screen, big cinematic TV is what Discovery strives for, and Picard to an extent, especially the Discovery. And they're getting better and better at it. Shout out to season 3. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's talk about it today. And if you're watching me on YouTube later, hey, keep it up, man. Keep it up. This is not going to go away. Maybe we'll get a resolution. Maybe we'll have some kind of direction here in the next few months about how independent the movie wing will be, how much they may, sit down and liaise with Secret Hideout. I don't know where we're into direct TV to film, like old school, oh, look, your series is over. Or here, we're going to boost the TV ratings by having a movie. When you get into that kind of direct synergy with the same characters and premise, I don't know. But I'd sure love to see something pioneered on movies. I know it's counterintuitive because a strict anthology movie series, the minute one of them actually hits and becomes a big hit, oh no, they want a sequel. The anthology just goes right out the window. Oh, we got to have those guys. What, it'd be stupid not to. We can sell even more action figures if we brought that situation, that cast, and that character format back for a second movie. What, are you kidding? Anthology schmology. So I don't even know how well that would work once you get into a huge budget situation. If you're going to be small budget, then you're talking about being back on TV now. Maybe there's a middle. Maybe there's a middle ground. We talk about Star Trek and current Hollywood. Mid-range budget movies seems pretty counterintuitive. We'd see. But you know what? Star Trek is a pioneer, damn it. I would love to see Star Trek pioneer some of these things that turn conventional wisdom on its ass. I think it's ripe for it. I think right now with COVID, with the theater situation, with everything topsy-turvy, what's a given now? What's a concrete given? With some of these insane movie budgets, and I'm not an expert in cinema world, I'm admitting that. Scott brings a lot more insight on that end of it to the table. I'm looking at it from the Star Trek end of things. And also just a gut reaction as a layperson. Everyone right now is trying to predict what the hell's going on in their own industry as the pandemic plays out. We're in for a third wave as Europe is retrenching. Hi, guys, across the pond. Everybody is still up in the air about, politically what's happening. What will be the rebound from any of this? How will Mr. and Mrs. Ticket Buyer, actually who still go to big screens, react? What will Star Trek fans and what will fandom adjacent people think about all this? Where will the budgets go? Who's going to wind up with the reins? How long is it much longer going to take for all the new folks at Paramount, at the new Paramount and Viacom CBS to settle into this whole synergistic way, the turf, and how things will interact and who's doing what? That's all a part of the big picture. But don't tell me that Star Trek has become obsolete thanks to other franchises. Okay? Hang on. Going to take a break in a second, but before I go, I want to say shout out to happy birthday, Robert Picardo. Yay, today. And tomorrow, are you ready to celebrate? Tomorrow is Deanna Troy Day. We had Bev Crusher Day just a little bit ago. Tomorrow is hashtag Deanna Troy Day. Wear what you want to wear online. Celebrate as you will, guys. Hey, I will be back in just a second. We're going to take a break. If you're on YouTube, though, this will be it. I just want to say in passing, Once again, thanks to all of our Patreons. If you want to jump in, hey, they do this at the end of the month. Patreon does. It's great. $5, $10. That's all I mess with it. It's very simple. I don't make a complex thing out of Patreon because of my other entities. But if you want to come over and help us get the Trekland point of view out, I don't pile on. I do my best not to be the same old you get everywhere else. I think most of the folks in Trekland appreciate that. Yeah, jump over. $5 gets you a weekly shout out here on the show. $10 gets that plus access to our first generation interviews, the first couple of years of interviews and more from Portal 47, our behind the scenes, our true BTS folks. Yeah, all of these guys, thank you guys again. Our TTL clubbers at the $5 level and all our $10 backers. Thank you so much. It's allowed us to expand the Trekland media empire here this week, this year especially. Finally, I really, really appreciate that, guys. Meanwhile, speaking of that, hey, the rest of Trekland, if you want to join us 10 a.m. Pacific on Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern. This week, I would normally say 6 p.m., but it's 5 p.m. British and 6 p.m. Central European until the time zones realign. We're going to be on summertime here, daylight savings time in the States for a while. So we're thrown off with our global audience. But yes, we have a global audience there too. Life Support Live, we go boldly through uncertain times. Dr. Trek and Dr. Ali. One of us is a real doctor. A lot of geeking out on Star Trek. A lot of good tips you can take away in daily life. A theme every week. Join us at that time. Right here where you're watching right now. On YouTube or on Facebook. Again, it's a good reason to subscribe to the channel, right? And hey, yes, the Trek Files is still on hiatus. It's going to be another week or two. We're really enjoying. Right now, we're just sowing our oats and making good plans, big plans. But hey, the first 5 seasons are all there at the Trek Files, plus the documents, plus the files of the week. 1 sheet or 30. Go check it out. Lots of guests there. Trek Files on hashtag Trek Files on Twitter. All the podcasts, podcast.roddenberry.com. All the rest of our Roddenberry brethren are up there. Yeah. Otherwise, hey, if you're watching me on YouTube, that's it. On Twitter at Larry Nemecek. If you're on Facebook, that's my Instagram handle, Larry Nemecek's Trekland. And you know what? If you really are enjoying this and you want to see what the Trekland point of view to enjoying Star Trek is all about, just jump in the portal, portal47.net. Check that out too. Our open house is coming up. We just put it off for 2 more weeks due to guest wrangling and guest necessities. But November 11th, Wednesday, November 11th, go right now to LarryNemecek.com, grab your ticket, even if you're on my mailing list already. That way, not only do you get the direct announcement of our guest later this week, but then you're in the pot for the door prizes that night. We'll have a mini roundtable, a mini Ask Dr. Trek, at least an hour or usually more with our really top line guests. We've had Michael Westmore, Robert Hewitt-Wolf, Renee Echevarria, Robert Butler, the director of The Cage, yes, who's awesome. Yeah, that's the kind of caliber guests we're looking at for our open house. We have a guest every month in Portal 47. There's always a backstager. The open house is always something special, and we open the doors to everybody. So run over to LarryNemecekRightNow.com and click in, sign up, even if you're on our regular news list. And yeah, that way you're in for, we're going to have 2 or 3 incredible, some of the recent books. I've got some DVD sets, Blu-rays that I've never given away. We're going to do it up big this year, okay? Hey, everybody. Listen, thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back after the break here, but if you're going away right now, please, please, please do what you need to do to stay healthy. And do what you need to do to stay woke. Check the sources. And if you hear somebody else spouting weirdness, misinformation, kindly do your best to, de-escalate, come in at a third angle, and point out that maybe they don't have the right angle on that. Little Star Trek common sense never hurt anybody. Most of all, do all that, or you can just wrap it up and say, Trek well, everybody.